Hello, welcome. I'm Bill Wake. We're here working on Dungeons and Patterns game. It's a role-playing game, and we're building an online version to run in Elm. I'm lucky today. I have my brothers with me, and they're going to at least kibbutz, maybe drive along a bit. Today's session may be a bit short. If I can, I may get on later this evening, maybe 7 or so Eastern time, 7:30. And I'm not available this Sunday, but otherwise I'll be back next Friday as usual. So today's focus, I think we will load the JSON load the JSON file from the web. All right, so the view the rest of the time. Okay, let's see. So I've kicked off the reactor so we can run the app, and I thought I would just take us on a tour through that. Take us on a tour through the architecture, just kind of help orient my brothers here. And, Okay, well, we left off with some incomplete stuff. Okay, well, let's pick up from the work then. Sometimes that's helpful because then you got something to do to fix to start things. This window, we're starting off the tests. Okay. So what we've been doing lately is, so far we have a game where you can go to visit the various rooms, you can see the exits to go to other rooms, and you can select the pattern you think is right, so you're solving the puzzle in effect, and you can do a few actions to say, how do I want to interact with whatever I see here? What we'd like to do, and what we're in the middle of doing, is trying to make it so that the dungeon's description is a separate loadable file rather than being hard-coded into what we are. And on the right here, we have that file. So it's a dictionary. So the key 1A, this is room 1A, draw this picture, display this sentence, these sentences, and here's some actions you can do. Choose an action, does nothing. Shake the box, nothing happens. Press the button, and so on. And then there's an answer and the exits. So that's kind of one room's description. And then there's the next one and the next one. These would normally have, 1C or whatever the room is of the that you can exit to. We just haven't done those yet. The navigation does work. I just haven't done it in this file yet. All right, and then where we left off is trying to get this working with loading the file into the system. So we're going to take a quick walk through how Elm's architecture works, because I think it's a very interesting kind of it's kind of an interesting way of doing things. It's got its charms. Okay, so the big starting point is Elm is basically designed to work with immutable types. And so you're not allowed to have side effects like reading a web file or writing something to a disk or getting a random number or getting the date. All those things have side effects. And so the way Elm breaks it apart is the Elm side is all pure functions. Give me the inputs, I'll give you the outputs, no side effects. There's something called the Elm Runtime, or sometimes the Elm architecture, that coordinates working with the outside world. And the core of that, it shows up in the way, this is where the main program is. There's a browser class that does it, and then there's kind of three key functions. We'll ignore subscriptions because we're not doing that, but there's an initialization, and you create the initial state and the initial command. So everything is done in terms of the state and the commands. Then there's a view function that we've named view very cleverly, and update named update. So let's see what those three functions look like. So I'll skip down here. So we've defined a model of some sort that's the actual state of our system, and the initialization function, its job is give me the initial model. So in our case, we've made a simple dungeon that has one room. You visited it, and these other two dictionaries I won't go into, and the game. Okay, so it's the game is defined up here. It's the in-memory version of the JSON file we're trying to load, but it's a description of all the rooms basically. And so when the Elm runtime starts, it says, run this function, give me the resulting model, and I'll take that. And what I'm going to do then next is I'd like to call the display, which is the view. All right. Now, view's type is given a model, produce HTML of message. So basically it's creating the HTML. Given a model, how would you draw it out in terms of HTML? In our case, I've got a helper function that draws the scene, which is the picture up top and the initial text. Then there's a section for actions, shake the box and press the button and so on. There's a section for guessing the pattern, and then there's a section for the exits in the system. And we'll just go into the first one, but it's HTML-like div, image, text. They're pre-provided functions from the Elm side to turn into the same, div, image, paragraphs, etc. on the HTML side. So in that sense, your view is kind of, it gets big. This is 50 or 100 lines or whatever it is, but it's conceptually it's like, here's the state, just draw the stuff, and that is, it's nice. It's a nice breakdown. That's enough work. All right. And then most websites have a little more going on than that. There's usually some interaction, and ours is no different. We let you select the action, and we let you select the pattern you think it is, and we let you click on the door, the door symbol for the next room you want to go to. And so what you have there is we have messages, and we've defined those messages. Let me, here's one, guess pattern. Okay, so somewhere we've defined action and guess pattern as being the messages that this view produces. So back up here, we said a model was the HTML and the messages. So when the Elm runtime runs and somebody clicks on something, the Elm runtime says, oh, I see you want this message, get pattern. Guess pattern is what you do when you click on the drop down for patterns. And so it feeds that message back to the Elm runtime, and the Elm runtime does something with it. And what it's going to do is it's going to call the update. Update says, here's a message that I got, like guess the pattern. Here's the current model. How do you want to update that? Tell me the new model. And then as a bonus, I'll let you give me a new message, and I'll run that as a command. And commands are sort of instructions to the Elm runtime. So in effect, you're not writing a program that writes a message. You're writing a program that creates instructions that the Elm runtime will interpret to write a message. And so if you want randomness, you go to the Elm runtime and send it a message to get randomness. Okay, so in our game, we've got four types of messages. You can load the game, which is what we're working on now, and I don't know what I'm doing, so that'll become very clear. You can go to a room, you can make it to take an action, or you can guess the pattern. Now, I don't know, let's see, we have our terminal, we have, it's running the program automatically. The first argument to expect string is not what I expect. Okay, load game is one of our actions, this one. So we're trying to do the thing to read the file. Basically, we've got a file on disk, this JSON file that's on the right, and we're trying to read it into memory. So we have to do that with a message and a command. And the command we're using is this load game. And let me go back up to init. I kind of skimmed over this. Initialization is the initialization function and an initial command. So at some point, we're going to change from no initial command to a loading initial command. And so when we start the application, it'll create the initial model, and then it'll say, now I got to execute this command. I'll do the load. That'll come back through the update command, which will apply the load and hopefully load a file. And then with that, it has a new model. It can show it with the view command. So everything kind of goes through this cycle of command to view, command to view to update back around. It just, your process is that. And you're not worrying about like synchronizing things or anything like that. You're just saying, here's the model, I'll show this the current state of it. Okay, now where we're messed up, let's see. So main.elm argument to expect string is not what I expect. So this HTTP expect string is a function. So let's see. So get takes a URL. That's the file we're trying to read over here. I've got a small version out there somewhere, I think. We'll create it if not. And then I think what it's trying to do is when it tries to load this, what should it make the command be? And so we want to come in here and say, this is going to be a load command. And when you do a load command, load game, how does the update deal with that? Well, it's going to, we don't know yet. We haven't done it. But we're going to do something, and we're going to make a new game somehow. Okay. And we just threw this in. This is not anything like what we expect it to work by, but we do know that load game gets an error and a string, because that's just what HTTP is going to do for us with a get. Okay. And let's see. So here, same thing. We called expect. We passed in load game. Load game is error to string to message, but expect string needs the first argument to be result. Error string goes to message. So I don't know. Do we just need result? Result is a predefined class, I think. Let's see. What line is that? Main.elm 71. Okay. Oh, so yeah. So this is there's this ability to make an initial command, and so right now we just did a none, but I want to switch to this. Okay. So this expect string, I don't know. It sounds like it just wants a result of load game, and I think it doesn't know result yet. Result. Well, I've been kind of lazy exposing ... but let's see if we can. Let me save and see if it changes anything. Naming error. These names seem close. Okay. Result.ok. I don't know if that's what I'm expecting. And I've clearly not done this. Okay, expect okay, yes.
Capital O.
Oh, thank you. Does it need to load that? Well, expect string expects 2 arguments. It got expects 1. Okay. Let's see. I guess we should look up http.get, right? All right, here's HTTP. Gotta get example. Okay. HTTP expect string got text. What's got text? Message is got text with result an error string. So let's see if we declared our message to be like that. And what did it do in the get? It just had the message. So I don't think this is helping. Maybe I've just forgotten parentheses on my load game. That's down here. It worked when they did it. Okay, got text. Result of that. Okay. So result takes the 2 types. That's better there. Okay, load game error contents. Error and contents. Okay, what is the complaint? Too many arguments. Which is the extra one? All right, let's go back to that example. Got text result. So update cares. Where else were we messed up? This is update. Okay, that's progress slowly. All right, so it looks like what we need to do is we got to deal with the fact that results from an HTTP request, two things can happen. Either you get it and you're all happy, or you have some sort of error. Okay, and so in this case, if you get it, you get the full text. If you don't, you get the failure. And I'm not quite sure I know what. Okay, that's in my model. Okay, so in effect, I'm saying the new model is going to be one of these states. It's either loading, failure, or success. And in the update message, I convert the result into one of those three states. Well, two of those three states. We haven't worried about loading. Loading is kind of a one-time thing, so it doesn't really show up here. We initialize with it, but we don't use it. Okay, and so I think what this is coming down to is my model doesn't account for these things yet. Okay, these initialization states, I guess we could say. All right, and so got text result. We definitely need to handle this case, got text result, but really we need to tear apart result and do that. And I think let's call this result, but I think we can do it like this. I think we can say load game okay, it's lowercase k, right? Okay, and we can break the cases into a top level. Okay, and error. And again, I'm just kind of putting dummy code in. Okay. It was error. Oh, okay, an error with a value we ignore and a value we want to keep. Okay. So this is text. Well, apparently not. Error. Ignore. Error blank goes to. That'll help a little. Load game error blank goes to. Okay, the underscore says ignore the information, so we're trying to not pay attention to it. I may just go to this case style if I thought this worked this way. The type expects one argument. Is that better? It is. So Elm is noted for its good error messages, so hopefully, come on. Okay. All right. Let's save. Have we made progress? I don't think our load is going to work, but I think we can. Oh, okay. Good. Yeah. So our tests pass, but we haven't really done anything with what we get back. So it's funny. I mean, reading a file is kind of a big deal here. It's a bit more of a pain. I mean, Java now has this one that's like, here's the name of the file, please read it, break it up into lines and give me the result back, and Elm is definitely not working that way. It's nice in the sense that it's forcing you to deal with all these errors, because a lot of software, they try and skip over worrying about the errors, and it seems to work, but when anything goes wrong, the errors start dominating. And so it does try and make us take care of that, but yeah, it's more of a pain. Okay, if this is doing its thing, let's give this a chance. I don't think it's going to work because we've taken over. Oh, maybe we've got pieces left in. Okay, well, we can demo now. All right, that's progress, if nothing else. All right, so the setup is you've come into this design patterns dungeon and you're presented with a situation. The room has a box in it. The box has a button. The button says, say my name, or the box that says say my name. And what are you going to do? Well, you can either shake the box, press the button, or say my name. Steve, what's your choice?
Let's say my name. I'm
Okay.
a very literalist.
Okay, very clever. How about guessing the pattern? What do you want to try, Doug? Shake the box or press the button?
I can't resist pushing a button.
Okay. It is an inviting button. Okay. There's a puff of smoke. An identical box appears nearby. Okay. And we'll just get the last one for completeness. Shake the box, nothing happens. But press the button every time there's a puff of smoke and more identical boxes. And then our goal then is, either guess the pattern or run away. So we've got three choices here: observer, prototype, or proxy. So if you've studied design patterns, observer is you're monitoring an object and you're trying to notify anybody who's listening for that. Prototype is you sort of set up a cookie cutter or a template of an object, and to produce one, you replicate it and maybe modify it. And proxy is you think you're talking to one object, but really there's another object behind the scenes that you're talking to.
Clearly prototype.
Yes, I can't help giving it away in the description. And I've kind of cheated here too. You can go to this next room. Notice the picture now. Well, the picture in this room is the button box, because we were just there. So that's where we could go to. This only has one exit. Okay. And, elf in a booth, ask him anything. Okay. But we'll go back. We still don't know what's in this room because we haven't been there yet. So if we visit this room, we see apparently a hotel with a clerk. Okay. So this is the basics of this game, and eventually you accumulate enough right answers, you can go on to the next level or whatever. It's the challenge of it. All right, but I'm feeling good that at least we got back to a working system, even if not a file loading system. We've been putting stuff in place to get the files loading, and I think we're making progress there. I'm going to adjust my mic one sec. Excuse me. Okay. So we would like to make the thing load. Let's see. Initialization. What is it doing? Well, where's initial command? Oh, game right now. The state. It has the room, the starting room number, or the rooms you've been in. I think these are actions and actions you've done in this room, guesses you've made in this room, and the game description. Well, right now the game description is a variable or a no argument function, however you want to look at it. It's got a room, it's got a box in it with inviting red button. Sounds familiar. Yeah. So that's where all this came from. Okay. But we want to instead read from a file. All right. Okay. So what's next? Let's see. Let's go to our to-do and see what we said we wanted to do next. Load the dungeon from the file. Okay, I think we're on track. All right, so load game. So we know something happens when the game correctly loads, and I think this may actually kind of be right. This notation is you've got a record or a type, and you're going to update a field. So given the model that you had to start with, the argument here, the way you change it when you load a game is you update the game field, which is the last piece of the state. And right now we're saying game from list. And that's the part that needs to deal with the JSON. And we've got pieces sort of in place to do that, but haven't really done it. And then at the end, we say command.none. And that's because the Elm interpreter loop, or the runtime, basically gives you a chance to produce a new command. So we could have a second command that we wanted to run, and maybe we call goto and do something, or action, or guess pattern, whatever we want to do. We will keep doing the automatic ones until we pass command.none, and then it just sits and waits for the user to do something, and they click on a button, it sends a different command, one of these ones on the messages. Okay, so this says take the game and make a new game from the list empty. Okay, so that's not really kind of what we want. And then be ready to go. Just go into your normal normal command loop. All right. Let's see. So somewhere we had expect. Okay. So yeah, this is where we're going to try and change things. Okay. I think let's see what we can find for this. I think there's expect JSON, and I think that's what we want to use. Is that not? Where am I? I thought I was in the real. Let's go to the Elm lib. Oh, that link probably works too. Elm HTML. Oops, let's try Elm HTTP. Okay. Yeah. Modules. It's always kind of one away. Okay, we got get post request, sort of normal things there. And then JSON body. Okay, that's more the request you're sending, I guess. What was the command? Expect JSON. I think that's a link. Okay. Expect JSON. Yeah, so this is kind of the setup we're going to try and do. We got a URL, and we're going to call get, and we pass the URL, and then expect. Basically, the command we want to do is expect JSON on this, which looks like our loading thing, and GIF decoder or GIF decoder, depending which side of the Mississippi River you're on. Okay, so GIF decoder, it's a decoder that gives you a string. It's going to look up the data field in the JSON and look up the image URL field in there. Okay, so that turns into a string. We already have a decoder. We'll find it in a second here, but try and get the pattern that we want. Expect HTTP expect JSON, our message, and the GIF decoder. And this thing takes result HTTP error string. So, okay, so expect JSON, command, decoder. All right, in our case, we've got expect JSON should be next, load game, and then we need a GIF decoder. All right, we have one. Is it on state? I don't know where we left it. Sorry. Oh, probably on game, right? Because game is what we're trying to load. Yeah, down here we have serialization. Okay, and this code was automatically generated. There's a tool in the IDE that will happily do all these things for you. It reads the type and says, "Oh, I see you contain an image. That's a string, and a description. That's a string, and so on." So this is a decoder. Well, it's a decoder game. I don't know if we can. We're just going to see load game, and then let's try decoder game. Can you import that? No. All right, let's go back to game. Exposing ... That should have let us do it. Oh, this is game decoder is lowercase. I guess we want the actual thing. So this is the decoder function. Ooh. Oh, I thought I was going to like it. What's your problem? Inspection. Okay, usually the compiler is better at telling us. Okay. Game decoder value is a JSON decoder of game, but expect JSON needs a decoder of string. Huh. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Well, what makes sense and what doesn't? Maybe I should say that. This thing, it's going to expect JSON, expects a message, and a decoder, and this says it's a decoder of strings. And I think that decoder string is an input. I really would have thought JSON would have expected a generic decoder. Let's see. It was highlighting there. What does it say? Expect JSON takes a result error goes to message, which our load game apparently is, and a decoder, and it produces an expected message. Oh, golly. Here's GIF decoder. Decoder
Everything
string.
goes to a string.
Yeah.
So JSON's a structured file. What are we turning it into?
Right. So we're trying to read it. I mean, I guess it's reading as a string, but I thought we were turning it into our game object.
It's kind of strange, yeah. If it's a string of the JSON, that's just the same as loading the file.
Yeah.
It looks like, I mean, it focuses on the image. Do you even have images in your JSON file?
I have image.
Is that what GIF means here?
Yeah, I think this is they're trying to load. Oh, what are they doing there? I think they're trying to. I think they have image data. No, it must be an image URL. They don't show what they do with it, do they? I would have thought this would somehow turn this string into a GIF
Structured.
or a URL or something. Yeah, structured. Okay, let's see what the examples. This is the same example. You want to get a random cat GIF. Okay, you get this. How is this a GIF decoder? A decoder of string. All right, let's see if decoder. Let's go back and find JSON.decode. I know I made progress on this last time, but the JSON.decode, I'm hoping a better example will show up. I mean, decoder of A, I've been assuming that's a decoder that produces an A, an arbitrary type. And okay, here's a decoder of string, decodes a string into an Elm string. That's something.
Yeah, but what it keeps talking about is converting a JSON type to an Elm type. Not.
Dude.
These are all primitives, it looks like.
Right. Okay, so decodes.
So you're getting a string from your JSON and turning it into an Elm string, and then you turn your Elm string into
Then you
the thing you want.
I think maybe
I don't know what
so.
happens to this.
But like this, okay.
I think you may end up with just. Actually, I don't know.
Well, it looks like decode string is very popular.
Like, look at float, right?
Okay,
JSON, the float's definitely going to be a string because JSON is a string. But you can turn it into 42.
Right, but
which is an Elm float. But what happens to those then?
Well, this OK42 is that's a result.
Right.
It's
So you're going to read in a string, which is JSON, and each name value pair is going to be going to primitives.
Okay, so
There's structure in there too. I don't know how they're going to nest that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a list that takes.
But I'm
decoders.
almost guessing you don't need a decoder because everything in your JSON is going to be strings.
Well, what I wanted
You
to
don't have
do
images
decode string. Like, where's this bool? Bool is a type. Because like this, nullable int is a type. List of something is a type. Although lowercase like that is a little weird. Decode. So I want to call decode string game decoder game or something like that.
Decode a JSON array into an Elm array.
Decode a JSON array into an Elm array. This.
Can you scroll to the right there to see what OK array?
So it's the array you would expect wrapped inside a result type.
But that's for a single string that is an array. So you have a named variable in your JSON, and then the right is a string, which is an array.
I'm not quite sure.
I think this is field by field, these decoders.
These decoders are field decoders. The array
so
one
it's
is
showing you if you have an array in the string part of the JSON.
Oh, here's a little bigger one. Dictionary of int. Is this interesting enough? Let's see. Decoder info. That's kind of like my decoder game. So that's info decoder. What do they do with it?
Oh, this is a whole mapping thing now.
Oh, interesting. Is that what you have to do? If you need the keys, Alice and Bob available as dictionaries. Import these. Okay, create user name, height, age. Perfectly good JSON kind of thing. Okay, decoder.
Here's your decoder to a type, a
decoder
complex type.
Of dictionary to string user. And then this is information about that person. So we're trying to get the...
You have a name, which is your key, and then a height and an age, which is your data.
Oh, so my decoder is going to produce a map.
It's going to turn that into a dictionary with a name and a height age for each name.
So string to user. Okay, so I have decoder game in my case, and it does some stuff. We don't care what. How am I using it?
Are you going to have room for user?
Oh, look at that now.
Oops.
So now, JSON like Alice with a height of 1.6, age 33.
Okay, turns into dictionary singleton. Alice goes to users. Alice.
I like how non-aggressive this user manual is, if you need that.
Right.
But so is your JSON composed of rooms? Was it all rooms? 1A, 1B, 1C?
So 1A, 1B are the keys.
Right, that's your key.
And then the rest of it's the room. Let's go.
Right, but in this example, user would be room.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay, so let's go back to game.
So you're going to put lots of rooms into a dict.
Yes. Yeah, because I got a room decoder. Maybe.
But they have kind of a subtype, which is everything but the key. So your room is not included.
I don't know what they were doing there because they put
info is the height and the age, which is the data for the person.
Right.
Right.
And then
info decoder.
Name is going to be the key. So the dictionary goes from a key name to your data, which is an info type.
But then, like, how is this user Alice like, how did Alice get back in on this side?
Because it knew what your type alias user shows it's a name.
That's more like how your data is structured, which is a key, which is also part of the field.
Right.
But really, those are two separate things in the dictionary. Right?
Well, my key is not in the... Well, it's used on the right-hand side somewhere, but it's not... Yeah, okay.
So I think you could just... I think if you map to that user... If you map it just like that...
Right. I think I have, in the sense that my decoder game is producing a game. Info decoder.
Now, if you look at the JSON there, the key only refers to an info, but yours is different, I think.
JSON values. Maybe this is... I think this is kind of what they were saying. The example, I recommend using info. Okay, so maybe this example is more promising. Dictionary of integers is dictionary from list of these things. I'm still not feeling like I'm missing something at the top level here, but let's go back at this and see what we see.
I feel like your dictionary is your collection of rooms.
Yeah, I have a dictionary of key room name to room.
Right, and
right.
That's
So
to
room
me
needs to be image description puzzle.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you went to another page, I think it's just the same. Just if you substitute room for What happens if you substitute room for user in
Info.
that other example?
For info, I think. Well,
Well,
yes, user, because that's their info to the key.
Right.
I think that's what I have here in effect, right? Room decoders, decoder of rooms. This JSON succeed is sort of a nice library for parsing. If you get more than a couple, it gets ugly. So
Okay, so let's go back to that HTML or the manual. Go all the way down to the biggie, data structures. Yeah.
this one, okay.
So your room is not equivalent to info. It's like Steve said. It's equivalent to user.
So
It's
type alias room is
It's the full
the
description.
all the things that you have in the room.
But if you look a little lower at the JSON they show, it says Alice is the key, and then an info is the body.
Right, and
But
I think
in your case, you have a
Yeah.
key, but you have a room as the body. But info is what you're substituting.
right. I
for
think
here,
I'm
not
more like
user.
this, that I'm making a dictionary to integers keyed off of strings, dictionary from list Alice 42 Bob 99. That looks like a regular dictionary to me. And if
Right,
if
except
these
those
were
are
rooms
primitives.
Right,
instead
yeah.
of
Down
Yes.
there, infos are what's following your system.
well, I'm not so sure, because like they're in here, they're actually mapping these things back into the partial type. It's back into the user type, the full type.
But they use yeah. So you don't have a.
Well, because
Can we look at your JSON?
it's just a question of if you want to add your key back into your data type.
Right, I don't care if it's there or not. I don't need it.
Right. But you just get to choose whichever way you want to.
Right. I think the
Where you
first
wanna
way
put
made
it.
more sense. I just don't know what they're doing to get it there. So the problem. Okay, does this help?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the key. Everything from
Everything in it is-
brackets
is
is
there.
room.
That's what you have to decode.
Yeah. And I mean, I think what I've done, let's see, let's find the game test. So game test, I checked that the decoder, if you call decode string, maybe I'm just resisting decode string somewhere, decode string with the game decoder, and you give it this text, then you really should be equal to the expected data structure, which is a game with, one room. Room 1 maps to this room kind of thing.
Are you turning this into a dict in this case?
Yes.
Okay.
This
Gives you a dict.
gives me a dictionary. Actually it's probably all three together.
That,
Decode string needs a decoder and a string, and it produces whatever type you said
but- all
your
right, let's
decoder
look at the
produces.
manual one more time.
Yeah.
I have it.
I'm sure it's the last time, yes.
Yeah.
And-
So you have string to info to user, but in your case you just need string to room.
And I think that's this diction,
I don't know why you keep coming to this
because this produces exactly what I would like to see. That JSON.
It doesn't, because it's not complex.
Well, if 42 were a complete other thing, yeah, it would be. But
Yeah, but it says if you need Alice and Bob available in the dict.
I don't. This is 1A,
Right.
1B.
Right.
Yeah, you don't need it in the right hand side of what's in the dictionary, right?
Yeah, I think that's what values is supposed to mean. I'm going to slide up just a little
Decoder
bit.
equals map. Yeah, I think you need this line.
The type,
the map there.
the map. Okay. So decoder, dictionary. I think it's dictionary of strings.
String of room.
Okay. Dictionary. Oh, string and room. Yeah. Okay. Decoder. Now that's not a string decoder though, right? What was the?
Ultimately, JSON, I think it's saying it's treating that whole section as a string.
Okay, let's go back to main. Whoops, it's main test. Sorry. Okay. So load game. What is this thing expecting? Load game decoder. Game decoder is JSON decoder game. But I really wanted a JSON decoder string. JSON decoder of strings. I don't know. Okay. I want a JSON decoder of strings. I'm going to go back to game. I don't only have one. I have a decoder of games or rooms or puzzles. But they call JSON decode string.
That decoder room, for example, is that back on the other? What is that saying? Room decoder, decoder room. What is that telling you?
So it's saying to decode. I think what it's saying is to decode a game, use a dictionary decoder on the room.
So it's a dictionary of
we need
rooms.
a string.
Right, but is the string the room key, the 1A?
I think 1A is going to be done automatically, and it's going to give the string that needs to be decoded. So I think you need a
decoder of string.
Since you're telling it to treat JSON as a dictionary, I think it's doing that part and saying, here's a key. Here's the rest for that key.
Okay, so we'll do a little spike. All right, so this is our, I'll just say top decoder. I don't want to use string because it's probably taken. Decoder of string, and apparently just one I. Okay, and we don't know what that is. Can I reference that at this point in main? That would be interesting. So if I just call top decoder, he may be complaining just because it doesn't exist, really. The names do not match. Is there a typo?
So it's expecting a game decoder.
Load game. Well, maybe load game is doing the wrong thing. Where's my messages? Well, that... Oh.
Wasn't that where we
started? Was it? No, I changed. This type was string. I changed it to game.
Oh.
I just saw it, but it's followed by a definition. Oh, okay.
Yeah. We didn't mean
We'll
that.
clean that up if you insist. Yeah.
That was the thing to help us figure out this other thing.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, hey, look at that. Okay, to a test pass. Okay, now the theory for Elm is if you get the types right, it's just going to work. Okay, so...
now, but what did we do?
Right. So I think the thing is this load game should be saying if you load the game properly, you should get a result. Either something went wrong on the HTTP side and you got some sort of error, or you will get a game because it all went right and you knew what you were doing. That's obviously not a prerequisite for us. Okay. But so our load game, I guess the expect JSON wants to know the decoder that it can run to produce this. Yeah, so I think the sequence is when the expect JSON gets going, it's going to call load game, run the game decoder on the string it loads, the file it loads, and hopefully that type produces the type corresponding here, and you get your game. Okay. Now we haven't used it in any kind of real way yet, so there is that slight complexity. But now I think we're able to say this is okay, new game. Okay, I think that's what we're saying. So if you manage to, you call load game, it gives you a result. Result is either okay or error. If you got the okay with the game on it, then you have a new game value. This type is game, and we should be able to say the game gets updated to new game, and I have no more commands to run. All right, and this one, the game, we got an error. I'm saying, oh, the game is just nothing at this point. Game from list empty says no, the dictionary is empty. There's nothing there. All right. I'm willing to live with that one for now. Really, we want to do something else. We probably have some other, our model needs to be more sophisticated, basically, to say you weren't able to load a file.
But right now, you can say either I got a bunch of rooms,
yeah,
or I got nothing.
If I have a bunch of rooms, I'm happy. If I don't have a bunch of rooms, I'm not happy. Okay, so
well, if you're in the air though, that may be something else. Maybe we didn't find the file. Or
yeah, the file could be missing.
Find it, hopefully, we're getting the game.
Yeah, it could be a text and it's not a JSON. There could be a bunch of things. But we're going to focus on Happy Path because we're trying to get something done and see how it goes because we don't know what we're doing. That's the way programming is sometimes. Hopefully not all the time every day, but we'll run with this. All right, so I think where we are is if this all works, I think we get an actual game, assuming we have the file dungeon small. All right, and let's put something in there to let us know that we actually did something and not got the same one. Hi, brilliant people.
Can you spell that?
No, I can't. Brilliant people don't have to spell. Brilliant, yes. And my I key is sticky, which makes life even harder.
It was just brilliant or something.
Yeah, that's right. Who wrote this? Yeah. Obviously not us. Okay, so that file, and let's see if we can get it to load. All right, so we think the updating should produce a game that's properly loaded in. We know that if you do that, you get a game because we just saw it running, but let's go back to init. All right, now init, we give it a minimal room to start with, but I think what we want to do, that's fine. We can trim that down into whatever. The focus is going to be on this initial command, which is not being used yet. We think it's going to load this file and update our state with the loaded file. Let's do that up here. Init is not init command none. Oh, it's not. It can be init, but initial command should be our command, I hope. Initial command, yes, you.
What is the purpose of that?
The initial command?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you start, you get an initial state, and you sort of get a free command not triggered by the user, but triggered by you.
Kind of sending you to the first room.
So it could be sending you to the first room or something, but in our case, we're going to load.
Sending it to the first thing you want to have happen.
Yeah. And I don't know if init will flash up and then you execute the command and then it does update, or if it does the initial command and then uses that to produce the first view. I should say view. All right, so this shouldn't affect any tests because we don't test at this level. It should be visible here. Okay, so I'm going to reload this. All right, the room has a box in it. Is that the room we changed?
This room.
Yes. Where's the part about brilliant people? Okay, what's going on? Now, there is a debugger. I haven't ever used it. I don't know if I want to try and start now. I just fear the cost of it. But the challenge of this is, since everything is no side effects and printing out like, hey, I made it this far is a side effect, we can't really do that. Okay, now, how? Oh, this is game.
We need to make fail the part that would load the string.
Oh, I don't know.
At the very least, have it return nothing or something that wouldn't be good.
That would be interesting. I think we're getting game. Let me make a game 2. And I don't know. This is how what we're seeing is getting in there. So we definitely are getting that from that. So game 2 equals game from list, and let's just put one room in there. The room. And let's take, we'll steal all this stuff. I don't know if I need the unknown room as well.
What's the purpose of game 2?
I'm going to initialize from it the first time. All right. And then images, I think there is a 1K potions or something like that. Anything. 1K dash potions. Okay. Game from list. I missed something. I gotta have room 3.
You don't have your key kind of thing.
Yeah. Room 3 is a room. Unknown is another room. Okay. And key is sticky too. All right. So observer, we don't care what that is. All right. And then down here, I'm going to use game 2. And I guess we'll see it. Test shouldn't care. Again, we're kind of at a higher level. Untested. Okay, now this is freaking me out.
This isn't what it was.
That's the normal game.
That's okay. That just means we're not getting the right.
Something's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's empty
It's
caches.
not the worst, yeah.
And reload. No. Let's wait for a spinny beach ball. Okay.
Did you actually reset the server? I guess there's no server, right? It's just gonna run your code for sure.
It is a server. It's a little web server, mini web server called Reactor. Okay, so let me empty the cache on this screen, because I don't know if it keeps the page you're on cached or not. Yeah, good theory. What's the other one? Is it command? Where's reload? History? Reload page. Well, option command R. Okay, how are you getting there? No, who's referencing this? Maybe that's the real question.
Did you save the JSON file? We might actually be getting the JSON.
Oh no, something's going on. Oh. Okay. Here's game spread all through this. We didn't go to the model to get the game. And if we're not reading the model, we're not getting it. Okay. And even if I put game 2 here, it's not going to change anything because the view is always going out to the hard-coded
Can you
thing.
set game to be game 2 instead of...
Here?
No, up at the top, as a variable.
Oh, yes.
Actually, change that to game X.
Well, all those
And
things...
change game 2 to game...
Oh, okay.
We're going to start small.
Yeah. Okay. So, you want me to run this?
Yeah.
Reload this?
Yay.
Okay, cannot find game 2. Yeah, because we called it game.
Wait. Why is it not finding game 2 though?
Because my init, I changed it to game 2.
Oh. Interesting though.
Oh, so I had a syntax error. It didn't. It's not perfect on that part for sure. Okay. All right, you're stuck in a mysterious room. I don't know what's wrong with the image, but
Okay,
Is that-
now
is
go
that
to
the-
game...
is that the text we had?
I don't.
I had something about UG. Oh no, we're still displaying.
No, you're right.
Wait.
Game...
Okay. Let's... No.
That's not the.
This is the unknown room. That I know. Let me go back up there. And yeah, so unknown room. No. I think there's an error check somewhere for unknown states that unfortunately
That says the initial room.
Right, we didn't get that. That's what I was hoping for. Oh, well, let me call it room 1. Yeah, because I'm saying expect in room 1 here.
Yeah, I was wondering about some of that.
Exciting.
There is, yeah.
Hey, okay. So
that was from hard coding something good to hard coding something even smaller.
yeah. But we did get the potion picture and this text, so I feel like that's progress.
Okay, so now we want to take that out.
So now
No, keep that game.
Okay. Oh, the big game can go out. Is that what you're saying?
Keep that as game X.
Okay.
This is game Y.
Yeah.
All right. How do we get your JSON as game?
Okay. Well, this is the initial one, and I want something. Maybe I just want.
Oh, this is kind of your game stub.
Let me make initial game, and use that. And I think as stubs go, it probably should be this. Put that brace down there. Okay. Now, there's game is not existing now. Everybody's still looking for game below. What's wrong here?
Oh, you don't have that key anymore.
Oh, no, this is the key.
Oh, you do.
It may be I think it's a space. Spaces are a little bit sensitive. Like it notices nesting and it's not happy if something. Okay, but I don't have game, and the trick is this should be coming from the model. And let's go look at the model, because I think we're close. Model is state, and state has a game in it. All right, and so there's some accessor. It has the game. Current room is the name.
Can we look at game X again?
Yeah.
So that original game was kind of saying how to get that variable set, right?
How to get
Game variable in the model.
This initializes your game variable.
Yeah, I was initializing the game variable in the model.
Now, how do we do the equivalent, but from the JSON?
Right, and I think
I guess that's what you're saying, but
where did that JSON go when it was
the
decoded?
init's expecting game already exists.
Yes,
I'm
not changing that. I'm saying I'm putting in a minimal game to exist to start with, but once you've loaded the file, that's what everything should be using to get stuff. But my original approach, I didn't have the game in the state at all.
I see.
Okay, because the game, I'm like, oh, that's all hard-coded. And then it's like, well, wait a minute. If you want to translate it into French, what do? You're stuck. If you want to change and play a totally different game, what do? You're stuck. So it's like, oh, really, the game is part of it, but you got to load it in. All right. And so that's the consequence of that is this just grabbed that variable, free variable or local variable, global variable, I guess you'd say. It just grabbed the hard-coded, here's what a game is. And now this should be, the model knows the current game, because we updated it when we did the read here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the new model is holding it. Everything's right, except that the view
triggered this. Okay,
it's all triggered, I think.
But
the view is just looking at the old game, the plain old game that we started with, instead of going to the model and getting the equivalent of the game. And I think I can just write, just a little function to give an
model into a game.
Yeah, turn the model or the state into the, how do I get the game? And these visited all that stuff. I don't think this is, let's see. So let's just say, I'm going to say game given a state produces a string. Is that? No, it produces a game. Okay, how do I get from a state to a game? And I just want to grab that field. Where's current room? Dot visited. Oh, it's just dot game. Oh, state. So, game given a state is going to be dot game.
Like I know what I'm talking about.
No, but you're correct. I believe of state. Is that? Yeah. So I think to get from a state to the game, we could just say dot game of state anyway, and I think it might just work. But let's put that in here. Everywhere that's accessing game, where is it getting the variable? Well, it needs to be model. It needs to be game of model.
Does it buy that?
It seems to.
Good.
And you only have this in 38 different locations.
Right.
Which
that can't be a bad sign. Yeah.
Especially if this doesn't work.
See, I hire critics, it's
Yeah.
like I can't work this out. Uh-huh.
Not too many.
No, is that the last? There's one more complaint.
We have more complaints, but
Yeah.
it seems happy.
Okay. And so our working theory is that's just going to work.
That's definitely a working theory.
So you're going to load the stub game, and then the first command will be to load the game.
Right.
So we shouldn't have to do anything else, right? It should be all triggered up.
Yeah. So I think we've set the initial game, which is that little unknown game.
Right.
Okay. One room, question marks all over the place.
But as soon as that loads,
the init, sorry, I should have moved this thing further, but yeah, this thing says load that initial view. I don't know if it does a view on it. I didn't see a flash that looked like it did, but anyway, it either gets it or runs the initial command, and initial command says call the update method, and update says give me a message, give me a model. So the message is load game, and the model is the initial model. How am I going to update the model? Well, I'm going to put the new game in that we just did. Okay. Our test passed, that's a good thing. But the real question is reload. Oh no. We're stuck in a mysterious room.
what do you do?
Okay. Let's see. Is there something? So what does that tell us? It tells us we seem to be in our initial model. We have that there now. That's something. We don't seem to have accomplished anything with our load game.
Can you take game, the initial game? No, you can't take it out and put it into the model because you use initial game in places. But I like this idea that any game is now just the model. Game equals a new game.
Right. So this says update the state that's model, the record, if you want to think of it that way. Replace the field game with new game. Now I may be asking.
Let's make a game Y.
Let's name this something different. Let's call this function something different. I'm worried that I'm reusing the word game too many places.
Well, let me suggest something if you want.
Yeah.
You turn initial game, make a copy, call it game Y. Or game 2.
This one?
Yeah, copy that whole thing. Now let's change something in there so we know it.
Okay.
Name or whatever. And now we can...
You want me to do that on error or?
Well, wherever you were doing the thing, the case where you do the command, where's that?
The initial command or the update method?
Where you process the command. Here we go. Instead of new game, let's make it
Can you, instead of loading from JSON, can you point it to a new?
Because we still haven't seen that.
Can you point it to a new? Can you have it update from mysterious room to the wrong room?
So load game should update to game 2?
Yeah.
This takes away any other kind of oddity that might be happening in the whole JSON thing.
So you've got an initial game that goes in, but the first thing you want to do is just change it to the wrong room game.
We're testing the initial command.
Oh no, something's funny. This is mysterious room. I think
it's not even.
I'm not handling something about rooms. That unknown room is not what it is. Let's try room 1.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on here.
Actually, we weren't even getting that.
Right. So okay, so this should get us into something a little different.
Hey,
game 2 wrong.
Okay,
room.
good.
Okay.
We're there.
All right. Let's
now.
So now we know that we
don't
can,
want game 2.
We know we can update
but that means
the
your
model.
model thing worked.
So
your model game.
So the model game worked. Can I try new game here?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know, may you?
Yes.
Happiness.
Okay. A mysterious room. So that tells me this mysterious room, that's something in my system that says if you just don't know what's going on, just tell them it's a mysterious room. Which may be a bad idea, I will grant.
I think we're testing the new code. At least we know that for a fact.
I think so.
Whereas before we weren't sure if it was even.
So we don't know that we don't know that it loaded successfully because you had a. Oh, if it's unsuccessful, we don't need any kind of error message.
Yeah.
Let's just guess what are the odds that something we just invented for how to load it would be an error.
Can you do that? Yeah, can you do that with?
So the error case go to to room 2,
which we were at a second ago, and now.
Oh.
Now I was thinking you might want to do that on the JSON load because that also had an error state.
Okay, where's JSON?
Right, that's what I was thinking. Is maybe your JSON load had an error.
At least we tried a little.
Sorry, in the decoder or where we called it, I guess.
Yeah.
I think you had said something like, "Oh, we'll go back to that later and put some decent error message in."
All right. So expect JSON load game decoder. If it comes back with an error, handler for the JSON.
Oh. Is that where we pointed to game 2 if it came back with an error when you scrolled down there?
Yeah. So I just made if it had any errors, jump to game 2, which has room 1.
We saw this one work.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, when
I put it in load game, it worked. Yeah.
In load game, yes.
But we haven't seen it.
I'm just saying,
here.
game 2 itself is a working game.
Right.
But
so here it's not going to the error screen. So it's interesting. Does your model not have a room 1? Is everything keyed off room 1? Does your JSON have a room 1?
You know what I think? I think
it has 1As and all those things.
Well, sure, if you want to get technical.
Here's what I think. New game is what's loaded by the JSON, and new game isn't correct.
1A, there we go.
We're going to try Steve's way.
Okay, I missed that.
Room 1 should be 1A. And this also should be in the state, right? The initial room should be part of the dungeon description. I don't have it there yet.
Okay, this is brilliant. Remember the brilliant part?
The brilliant
Yeah, we're going for brilliant. Okay. And the full reload cache. Oh, brilliant, folks. Okay.
This is the JSON, right?
This is loading from the JSON.
Good.
So, brilliant, folks, I believe is the only one in Dungeon Small. Let's see.
Do you have a minute to talk programming philosophy?
Sure.
I think it's interesting. You do a typical shortcutting thing, right? I'm going to use room 1. I'm going to use this, and I'm not going to care about this stuff. And that's, of course, what blew up on us, right?
Yeah.
Is we need to care. We need to be very specific about how that is going to look. Are you going to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you had mentioned about Java. I'm using mostly C# and .NET right now. Loading a file is just the easiest thing. It's one line of code.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is you deploy it, and then in real world, all kinds of things go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There's catches and all that, but you haven't put them in yet.
Right.
And so when you deploy it, or when you deploy it on your testing server or whatever, the file's not there, or the file's in the wrong format, or, and then you fix that stuff back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed Elm was a huge pain about that, but we're actually fixing all those things that would have happened live.
Yeah.
Even live, my own running tests, we're catching everything that could possibly go wrong. It's a huge pain up front before we deploy. And I do think,
but it's a
probably
trick of
Steve's
learning.
right. I think you do need better, like, what to do when things go wrong. But I like that it encourages that, and at least we have the spot for it.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't even have to put the catch in my...
Because we were learning as we go, though.
Yeah,
Phil had set up the mysterious room as his default. Hey, if you're not really starting correctly, just go to a mysterious room, or anytime you do that. But when we popped that up, we thought, oh, we're having a problem. We didn't interpret that correctly, right?
Yeah, the first time or two we thought it was the unknown room.
The JSON loading was having a problem, which it wasn't. It just wasn't. The JSON itself wasn't set up correctly. So that's an interesting thing of how do you keep your shortcut problem errors in your mind.
Well, and I mean, I don't think I'm the greatest at that to start with, and then my programming style here is I work on Sunday afternoon and then I go to work for the week and then I come in on Friday and it's like, what was I doing last week? And
but what
that doesn't
like
help.
about these when they work, and I don't know with Elm.
Yeah.
But the goal is when you say, like, okay, now I want to add a new room. There's only one place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to change what happens when they pick the wrong thing. The goal is that there's only one place to go and one thing to fix, and not that you have to go through 3 different files and change this, this, and this. And I think some of that model game stuff was maybe a bit of that, where it was a little too global.
Yeah.
And there was too much chance of bleed through.
Right.
But when you get it right, and it seems it's encouraging you to get it right.
So let's make a load JSON error, right? Which should go to room 2, right? Or game 2?
Yeah, so let's change our init.
The only part I'm not so sure about is how well it encourages doing something completely different.
Like if you put a typo in, yeah. And now
you don't always want to go to a default dungeon.
Well, yeah,
yeah, so the game 2 wrong, right? So there's our error for that. This
is a programmer error, not an error you present to a user. I'm saying the only purpose for this is for us in testing.
Yeah. No, this should be a message like, there's something wrong with the configuration. We're sorry. Contact us or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this does show that Elm did force us to handle the error. Now, I put a pretty cheesy handling in there, right? Just writing, so the error was, file not found. We got pretty cheesy error handling to just throw up game 2, but I could also imagine, I mean, this is one, the reason the examples had more stuff in their messages is they wanted to be able to say at the top level, you tried to load your game, you were loading your game, you successfully loaded your game, in which case all these other ones kick in, or you had an error and here's some information about it.
Right, so game 2 should really be game load error, and the message in there should be a nice picture that shows some kind of a thing, and a message that says what you just said. Hey, there's a configuration error in loading.
Yeah. So that tells me, again, like my top level message thing probably should grow to be more explicit. It's nice to think, oh, I just load the game initially and then everything works, but that's not real life, And this handling, now I could imagine this is where my thought was I would put up this unknown room and just, kind of embed a message in there like, you got somewhere you really shouldn't be able to get. This seems like some sort of problem, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
So we're kind of, I'm just thinking we're kind of saying, like, I ordered a deck of cards from Amazon and then I opened the door to receive my deck of cards. Well, that's not really true, right? I'm going to look to see if there's a package. Well, let's say there's a package.
Yeah.
There's a package. Inside might be nothing. Inside might be a different thing.
Right.
Right.
You know,
And
I
you
guess
should
that's where
have-
we are with this, is that
Right.
we're looking for the item, but we actually have a higher level.
And if you give unsophisticated errors, hey, there's an error somewhere in your program, it's hard to debug where that is.
Yeah.
But this does seem to have handling for everything. There is a spot for it all, and I do like that.
Yeah, and like this argument is there's like 7 cases like file not found in bad format and
Right.
communication error and whatever stuff goes
what
wrong.
I do like is that you had to put something there,
Right.
and then we can fill it out more later.
But I think my one takeaway anyway, is on these cases where I'm doing that sort of, I don't mind that I do a shortcut to say like I'll come back to this later, but I'm not leaving myself strong enough breadcrumbs to make it happen and obvious,
Yeah.
Right. What should you have put? You should have put, this is a load model error. Like, right, you should have put game equals load model error game or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that probably is what it's now
If
called.
you even think about
initial.
the page taking the package and having a status bar,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which might be
that
fine,
that could be
okay,
possible too.
and then
Yeah.
the game itself,
Oh yeah, I mean definitely there.
even if it's a hidden div,
Yeah.
that you can use F12 and look at the. Well, you don't have F12 on a Mac, but you can go to the HTML.
Little F12.
Oh,
Oh, you have a
F12.
key you have to hit.
no, that's the strip I heard.
Not a stupid strip that always has the wrong buttons on it. But yes, you could extend the state, and that's another worry I have though. Is my state? Let me go to the state object. Okay, right now it's 5 things. Here's your current room. Here's the rooms you've visited. A set of these. Here's a bunch of actions. Here are the actions you've chosen for each room. So, in my room dialog.
Oh, you don't want to show the same action that they've already.
Yeah,
selected.
I want to. If I do shake the box, and I go to this room, and then I go back, it should still be shake the box, and same thing on the pattern.
I see.
That selection that you made in either the action or the guess is persistent. The game should be there. The game should also, like this text, what's the pattern? Well, that's obviously part of the pattern game. It should be part of the game. I definitely have stuff I need to pull in. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely taking away this thing about being more careful about breadcrumbs on errors and, not just a dummy thing, but something that really screams like I'm really, really bad.
Well, and that's where Java and C# and have spoiled you.
Right.
But I mean, we've seen it before. Like, it's lots of things before. It's interesting as you go stepwise, you kind of go, I know what step it'll be.
Yeah.
But here we had to go back steps because we didn't really understand
Yeah.
how all this stuff connected together. And so you fix the error at the first and then kind of...
Yeah.
But a big
know
problem you
which
see a lot
ones.
with Java is, and maybe we shouldn't code that way, but a big problem would be like, I couldn't find the file. That code a lot of times tries to do something about it, and it's not its business. Its business is to, I guess it really is. There's a package all the time. There's a message, and then there's a possible, say, game.
Yeah.
And I do like that this kind of makes that a very high level thing. That we tried to get the game, and we couldn't. Whereas in Java, you're kind of down there in the file, and you're going to throw a file not found exception. But what if later we changed a different way of loading it, and the code's expecting a file not found?
Right.
You know,
Right.
I do like how this one's just you're kind of building the state machine out of this
But it
at a
gets,
top level, but you do have to fill it in.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
so funny as you're learning a new thing, how much naming is like...
Yeah.
Good naming is always a thing, and you called things game, and you should have called it, if you called it a knit game.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Just those kinds of things. Again, it's the breadcrumbs, but it's the breadcrumbs that good naming gives you. it's always easier just to type something simple. Oh, it's just a game or a new game or whatever. So I'm going to do that. Learn the lesson a million times.
Right.
But I mean, I had a huge rollout that was impacted because of a naming thing. We had to roll it back and go a few weeks later because of naming. And you see it over and over and over.
Right.
Here you see it in the small and the feeling of like, well, why isn't this working? Is this
right? The two main problems, yeah.
Yes.
And this is another. It's kind of a regret for me. I mean, I guess I got to take a lesson out of it. But we had game sprinkled all through the view. There was definitely a moment where I knew that was the case, like a week or two ago, and I thought we had dealt with it. It's like it was on my list, my mental list of like, oh, we're going to put the game in the model, and we'll have to update the view and update the commands and all that stuff. Well, we did part of it, or I did part of it, and then, forgot that I hadn't done the rest yet. I was trying to, some people call it nesting or kind of pre-refactoring or whatever, is like put the thing in shape that you want, like pulling the game from the model, even if you don't get the model from a file, the game from a file. If I could have fetched it from that model anytime after I put it in there, and should have. And so I definitely am like, I got to leave myself better to-dos, better notes, better stuff there. And then also just, I don't know, there's just, it's hard to keep that stuff juggled in your mind. So I do try and do things to kind of like minimize that, but I don't do well enough.
I do think with a programming model like this, you really want it to be that you build the structure, and that's a pain. And that's what I felt we were doing with the JSON file loading. It was a real pain to build that structure because we have to plan for everything that can happen. But once that structure is built, it should be very easy to change things in that. There should be one place to go to. There should be...
Right.
And I think it was kind of surprising how many places we had to change just to load the file from a different place.
Yeah.
But is that a building the model failing or whatever on your part, or is it a, hey, I'm learning how all this stuff works?
Oh yeah.
And so I'm not really sure. Like, the second time through, like...
Right. If you did this again from scratch, I think that wouldn't happen.
Right.
But I also think that pain of like, I don't even know where...
Yes.
That would get less and less.
Be meticulous about...
And then I don't know when it holds the structure that well. I haven't used Elm, but I like this. I originally saw it as kind of like reminding me of Prologue. But I think it's deeper than that. It's really modeling the state model of your program.
Right.
And to have your data and program state as a data structure is very fascinating to me. I'd like to look more.
Yeah, and I think even just like read the top level functions, view, update, init, and those things, and make sense of the model, regardless of whatever else you're doing. But like those things hang together in kind of a cool way.
Right. That's the other thing I'd like to see in say you do this a few more times. Yeah, that you want to see that there's one place to go, and also you want to see that somebody can look at it quickly and say, oh, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
I don't care what a game is, but I see what you're doing. You're loading it. You're putting it on the screen.
Right. So I think there's a couple other things I'll just kind of go with. One is like this view helper. This view actually, it was all one big thing. Like at first I just had the scene, and then I added in the actions and the guesses and the doors. Actually it was scene, then doors, then guessing, then acting. But and so it started off with just about 4 rows of HTML stuff, and it's grown from there. But like here I can see I used game twice. Like these things, they don't have to just go from the raw model. They can go from the whole game. I could pull the game out here and pass it in, and this would be a stronger, here's the scene for this room, with whatever stuff is there. And it looks like I've got current room. Maybe I pull those two things out, and this is a lot better description at that point. And, at the expense of a couple arguments up here, but I think it would tell you the scene just needs to know the current room and the game, the game description, or maybe that's a better reflection of it. And then there was one other thing. Oh, the other concern I have is the state and the messages. Like this is going to be I might have 10 messages when this is all done, as far as the game goes. But I think this is a pretty small application, right? if every, like any realistic application, how many files does it load? Okay.
Right.
Oh, it loads a bunch of files. Maybe I can roll them all through the same pattern, or maybe I can't. I don't know. And, how many interactions are there? Well, every drop down is its own message. Or are you going to somehow, you're either going to encode something that they somehow decode later, or you're going to find, make separate messages. I just don't have a sense of how big this scales to. It's like, could I do Gmail with it? That sounds like hard. It sounds like a lot of messages floating around. Of course, Gmail has about 150 functions in it, so
Right.
it's like if you've got 150 features, you pretty much need 150 messages, right? And so I remember this from way, 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 way back, unfortunately way too far, but the original Mac, you kind of did your applications in a very similar style to this. And I mean, you leaned very heavily on resources that you would kind of plant which resources you want and all that, but you had this sort of main dispatch loop, and every action in the program would run through there, and that sort of argues against, well, it's good for some things and it's tricky for other things, but it flattens out stuff that you really don't care about at the same time, and I think that's a little weird. But so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing a sense of, like, does that pay off? Or for a modest sized thing like this, maybe it's great, and maybe it falls apart at 25 or 30 or 50 or 1,000, however many functions.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm really happy we got the file loading today. I was really happy my brothers were here, and happy they were able to help me get this thing fought through and wrestled down into the dungeon. And like I said, I may come back tonight for a quick session, but I think this pretty much accomplished. I was hoping to get that done this week, and it's done. So I think from here next time, we'll go through, make sure we're happy with everything. But I think maybe some cleanup in the view, and I think that'll be a good thing. I think there's plenty of cleanup to do, and embedding of those lessons about how are we handling error situations. Are we really making it obvious when it's not handled, and what do we want to do about that? And then from the functionality point of view, I think the next thing to do is kind of put our game designer hat on. And this the dungeon right now, we've got room descriptions for everything, and I put action descriptions in, but I haven't done the map, the exits for each room. So I think we'll get that working so that you theoretically could do the whole room at that point, or the whole game at that point. It might be time for me to publish this on the web, even though I'm not quite ready to advertise it. But I also want to do some secret doors, and there's other things I want to do. But, we're to the point where somebody could actually go through and play this and try it out. And we're going to learn stuff when we try and publish this, I'm very sure, because I've not done that before either. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. Thanks to my brothers, Steve and Doug. And I will catch you in the future. Take care. Bye-bye.